Hey, good evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook. Thank you for joining us for another weekly edition of our Town Hall and Roundtable live stream with members of the Freedom Caucus. And we've got a special guest tonight, Dan Cooley of the Bullet Trap. Guys, we're live and hopefully we will be in demand after 7 o'clock this evening. So please like, share, follow, and subscribe to all of our content. You can find us at each one of us' respective Facebook sites, Illinois Freedom Caucus Facebook, and on Illinois Freedom Caucus YouTube. And we'd appreciate probably if you'd share the YouTube page and subscribe to that. We know how the big tech overlords are trying to squash content of this nature, and so we would appreciate you doing that. So this group, as you all well know, is always in the relentless pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And with that, I am going to get this thing kicked off. We're going to go to Chris Miller, the leader of the Illinois Freedom Caucus. Chris, a few words.
Hey, it's great to be here this evening. Dan Cooley, thank you so much for joining us with the rest of these rascals. You know, a lot of people don't want to be seen in public with us, so this is monumental. You know, one of the high water marks for me this year was actually to have a Freedom Caucus member on Tucker Carlson last night, the world famous Blaine Wilhauer. He did a great job. And, you know, one thing I say is, you know, I agree with Tucker most of the time, but I really agreed with him last night when he talked about J.B. Pritzker being a lunatic, a creep, and a dictator. And just because he was rich, he thought he could shred the Constitution. I found that very entertaining, as well as last remarks that he was the dumbest and the least accomplished governor in the state of in the United States of America. That was quite a mouthful there for old Tucker last night, but I 100% agree with him.
Excellent, Chris. And of course, guys, you want to know we're all in good hands as our governor is at the World Economic Forum in Davos this week, explaining to the world stage all of his successful accomplishments. So I'm guessing that Tucker and the people there would have a disagreement with that. Hey, guys, let's move on to Adam Niemerg. Adam, welcome tonight.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, folks, for tuning in with us here this evening. Thanks, Dan, for being with us here tonight. And congratulations, Blaine. You did an excellent job last night on Tucker, and very well spoken. As our governor jets off in his private jet to the World Economic Forum with the globalist elites, as our Ameren bills quadruple here in the state of Illinois, they continue with the woke wish list. And you saw the Second Amendment rights that you hold so dear, that I hold so dear, that we all hold so dear, were violated before he gets in his private jet. We saw abortion access expanded here in the state of Illinois before he gets on his private jet and heads over to the World Economic Forum. So this woke wish list, it's not going to get him the presidency, and we're going to put a stop to this gun grab right now.
Excellent, Blaine. And to that point, we want to bring on the vice chairman of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, newest member to the elite club of Tucker guest appearances, the gentleman that has told the governor, bring your lunch. Adam, I'm sorry, Blaine, that kind of blew me away there a minute. Tell us about telling the governor to bring his lunch. I thought that was just awesome remarks.
Well, as my good friend, State Representative Adam Niemerg, no, that's a phrase that I use often when he tries to come up at me, that he better pack a lunch if he's going to come up on this. But no, that's where we're at, state of Illinois. Things are pretty dark right now. But you know, I always say, and we always say, that the law and the Constitution and righteousness are on our side here. So you know, got to continue to see this thing through. But I want to give a shout out to the vast majority of the sheriffs in the state of Illinois, especially our part of the country. I think pretty much outside of the folks that represent a little bit of Champaign County, I think every member on this panel here has every single sheriff in their district that said that they are not going to defy the Constitution. They are not going to force this unconstitutional act. And, you know, I just want to give a shout out to them. And it's not just our area. It's all over the state. So, this is how we win this thing. We're going to prevail in court because the law is on our side. So thank you for all your support out there. Thank you for watching last night and engaging on social media and everything else. That's how we get our message out. So like us, share us. Let's get this going, guys.
Excellent, Blaine. And the video clip is up on most of all, if not everyone's, our Facebook site. So please view that 3.5 minutes and share that around. Next up is the treasurer of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, representative from Decatur, Macon County, and points north towards McLean County. Dan Calkins, welcome to the show. And with that, say a welcome and introduce our special guest, if you would, please.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you all this evening. And congratulations again to Blaine. It's a great accomplishment to get recognized, to bring that national spotlight to Illinois. We're the latest in I think a nationwide attempt to strip us of our Second Amendment rights, which is just the start of eroding the Constitution. When you can tear one of our rights down, it leads to the next and the next. And there seems to be a national movement to do that, and we're going to continue to fight it. A big announcement today in our Gun Rights Coalition. Gun Owners of America have joined our working group to help us fight this. A quick update, the drafts are prepared, and the lawyers are now putting the final touches on them. So as soon as everybody's in agreement and all the plaintiffs are on board, we'll be in federal court. Whether we get that done this week or not, I'm not sure, but we'll get it done as soon as we can. With us today is a good friend of all of ours, Dan Cooley, who owns and operates the Bullet Trap down in Macon. It's a full-service gun shop with indoor ranges and a phenomenal training facility right next door. And Dan, I want to welcome you to our Tuesday night conflab. Want to talk about the effects that this bill has already had on your business and what you're hearing from your customers and where you think this ought to go in the future. So without further ado, Dan Cooley.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. And good morning or evening to all you gentlemen. And it's a kind of a rough crowd, but I feel privileged to be part of it. So we applaud what you're doing every day. I know you're out there working for the rest of us, and it's very much appreciated. As far as impacting the business, Dan, it's going to make a huge impact. Lots and lots of questions have come up. Obviously, this bill was not thought out well concerning gun dealers. Just a little bit of input from us and a little bit of time instead of implementing this immediately, giving us time to tie up some loose ends would have been a big, huge help for us. Obviously, that was the intent, not to allow that. But, we had guns in transit that were paid for, bought, and got them here and couldn't transfer them folks because it was immediately upon his signing. That's caused a great deal of problem for us. We've had to be returning guns to dealers, to some of our distributors. We have another big issue that's come up and haven't heard addressed too much, Dan, is the fact we have so many consignment guns in our shop here. Those guns are personal, tangible property of other folks, and we cannot return them to them as the law is stated right now if they fall in the assault weapon category. So, that's been a huge thing for us to straighten out. Our online orders, that folks would go to our online page and have guns shipped here that we legally delivered to them as per the ATF rules. They've had those guns shipped. Now we can't deliver them. It's caused a huge mess for us. We've taken about half our inventory off the wall as we speak right now because going forward we have issues in selling them. So a huge headache, and I think yesterday was a prime example of it. It was a holiday, and lots of people are normally down here enjoying the recreational sport, and we didn't see that yesterday. So going forward, they're going to eliminate some dealers out of this, which I'm certainly they're quite happy with that. That's perhaps one of the underlying intents. I don't know, but big problem, and it's going to be ongoing. And I appreciate the fight you guys are putting up and the coalition you've formed. We're supporting that here at the Bullet Trap. And we have to, like I said on the radio yesterday, compliance should no longer be one of our top priorities. It should be fighting this. We can comply later when all avenues are closed, but right now we need to be fighting this with everything we can, and that's money, unfortunately.
Thanks, Dan. And I'm sorry, Dan,
No.
Dan and Dan.
Yeah.
But Dan, I saw that recently we have the court cases that are ongoing in the Supreme Court in New York, and I just read that Justice Alito and Thomas are deeply concerned that the laws in New York raise serious questions in regard to our Second Amendment. So I'm hopefully that they have those same concerns about here in the state of Illinois. But my question is, I've been getting a lot of questions from FFL dealers, from folks in my district.
Correct.
Has there been any correspondence to you through the ISP, through the governor's office, through the legislature, anything that they've sent to you? Have you received anything at all on what you should do or what the process is?
We did get an email that night, Adam, from that night or the next morning. I forget now. It kind of blurs together. Illinois State Police sent a email to FFLs in Illinois, basically telling us we couldn't sell anything going forward if they lined up in the assault category. And as you well know, Adam, there was so much confusion when this came out, and so little information, and so much confusion as to what was constitute an assault firearm. And, I'm sure there was dealers around the state of Illinois that probably did some transfers they thought were still legal to do. Then in retrospect and look back and say, well, really that one shouldn't have been transferred. And that, I just hope the state of Illinois, when they send all their armies of inspectors out for FFLs, and I hear they're ramping that up. Now they're going to do more audits, that they take that into consideration, how much confusion there was around this issue. And some of it's still ongoing. I think a lot of that stems from the fact there were so many proposals, and we were tracking those very closely. And then the actual bill we got, as you gentlemen know, changed some stuff pretty dramatically in the last hours that we weren't even privy to at the time. So very, very discerning for dealers, and everyone's just trying to comply with the law, but they couldn't have made it more of a mess if they'd been doing it on purpose, I don't believe.
Right. And we had asked questions directly on the floor regarding that, and we were given language and answers to those questions that just folks, it didn't answer any of the questions. So I think that the confusion is intentional, but hopefully these lawsuits will point us in the right direction to restore our Second Amendment rights here in the state of Illinois. Thanks, Dan.
You bet, Adam. Thank you.
I think one of the interesting caveats to all this stuff is that nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room, because criminals don't care about the law. The only people that care about the law are law-abiding citizens, and the 2.5 million legal gun owners are completely being tyrannized by the radical left as they shred the Constitution to try to have a soundbite with soccer moms so they can puff their chest out and say, look at us, we're really doing something to try to curb crime. And I don't know if you saw the report over the weekend about how many shootings have happened in Chicago just the last weekend, let alone since the first of the year. I mean, they're shooting them up there like fish in the barrel. They have the most stringent gun laws in America, and yet crime is rampant, out of control. Shootings are happening way too often, but it's proof in action that the only way that you fix this is, number one, you fix the family. Number two, you fix opportunity, and number three, you teach kids right from wrong, from toddlers on up, rather than teaching this woke agenda that's destroying America.
Absolutely correct, Chris. And, this was a political stunt for the most part. I mean, it was to garner support. And the other thing that I've been pointing out here recently, is we have to get behind organizations like your own to overcome this. This bill did not solve one crime. It did not prevent crime going forward. It didn't save one school child, hadn't done anything to beef any of the things up that we all know exist and we have answers for. Didn't address any of that. I was a lawful gun owner in the United States. States.
Yeah, and that's a serious issue, and I think that's part of it. I think everybody, wants to have less crime. I think we all are very concerned about the criminals and illegal guns, and we'd like to find a way to resolve that. But when you get bought out by this anti-gun Brady group, Moms Demand Action, this is the kind of bill that you see. And we saw yesterday there's another bill coming. We saw this bill saying that you can't give anybody ammunition unless you're an FFL, which means I guess I'm not sure who would want to give away their ammunition, but if you happen to have some extra ammo and you wanted to help someone out, according to this bill, that would be illegal. I don't know if we'll see that bill, but I don't put anything behind these. They'll stop at nothing. They'll stop at nothing to try to make a point. So we'll see. We're working hard to fund the lawsuits that we're going to be filing. I know, Brad, you had that little trailer in the past. I don't know. We can run that fflil.org. If you're listening to this and you haven't, taken the opportunity to help us pay our lawyers, this is a great time to do it. Right tonight, we could certainly use your help. And this little trailer down here will tell you, fflil.org. You can go on there and donate. Every penny of this goes to our attorneys. It would be very, interesting to see. I mean, I'm very anxious to see what happens in the courts. This could get stopped, right away in the first filing. I know the governor will appeal it, but I would suspect the Federal Court of Appeals would look at the Supreme Court and what has happened in other jurisdictions and tell the lower court or tell Kawami and Governor Pritzker, sorry, you got no deal here, and we'll march on. But we can't take that for granted. Dan, going forward, you do a lot of classes. Are your classes people still coming in for the CCL classes? For doing training, working, working in your academy down there?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. In fact, we've seen an uptick in that. One of the spinoffs from this. The one thing I have seen a lot of here in the last, since this came out, is folks coming down, getting their FOID card for the first time, all right, making their application. And the next question is, what do I have to do to get concealed carry? What do I have to do to keep this gun in my home legally? And, answering a lot of questions for first-time people. We just expanded our classes so we could accommodate the number of folks signing up because they're filling up in advance. So, that part of there's a larger interest than there was. And I think folks are concerned about this, and we'll just have to see where it goes. A lot of the shooting, I think, can still contribute to the price of ammo, Dan. And one of the points I'd like to make on that bill that they just did propose, like you say, I seriously doubt that sees the light of day, but I didn't think this last bill would. But on the ammo restrictions, as I understand it, probably across state lines would end buying ammo out of state, have it delivered directly to your door. Even though you might say, okay, I'm not going to comply with that law in Illinois, but the distributors are going to comply with it. And we're already seeing that on this gun situation. I have one distributor that, we talked to about ordering some of the guns because as an FFL, we can have them if we want to sell them somewhere else, and they're not shipping those to Illinois. And we're going to see more of that. More distributors are going to get on board with that, as it happened in California and other places where they've passed similar legislation. And that's going to be an issue going forward. So they've disrupted things already, and it's not going to just return overnight, I don't think.
That's going to be very harmful. A quick question, Dan. If somebody from Illinois were to go out of state, say they're on vacation in Florida, maybe hanging out at the beach, and they drive by a gun shop and just pop in. Can they legally purchase a semi-automatic rifle that might be on that list and then drive home with it?
They can legally purchase it, Dan. That would be 100% legal, but they cannot take possession. They have to take possession in their state of residence. And if they were Illinois residents, they would have to have it shipped to an FFL back in their home state to take delivery. And that's where all the protection comes on this nationwide. Those laws are in place. They always have been. And now other states are not that way. Federal law says you can go buy a long gun in any other state and bring it home with you. Illinois, you can't. Although the adjoining states, you can do that as long as they meet all the other criteria. Handguns, absolutely not. And they have to be shipped. So, there's federal laws in place protecting all this. Illinois is a little more stringent than the federal, as they always are. But no, they can purchase, but they cannot bring it back with them.
Okay, so trying to circumvent this this new law is really pretty much impossible.
Yeah, if they're obeying the law, it is. Now, the bad guys, they'll go down there, one they'll put in the trunk of their car and bring home 12 of them, and this does nothing to stop that. Nothing.
Black market. I mean, we saw what happened, in Prohibition when we decided as a country that we weren't going to outlaw. We outlawed the sale of alcohol, and we saw what happened.
Absolutely.
Do you think that we may see something similar to this? People, straw purchases out of state, a black market for people that want to protect their homes, want to protect their families, and weren't able, now not able until we get this settled in court. I mean, you think that's what we're going to see?
Well, I don't think, most of the people we're talking about are law-abiding, Dan, as we're all aware of, and I don't think they're going to participate in that. The criminals are, no doubt about that. That's not anything going to slow them down. Might increase their operating costs. I guess they'll have to increase their income to offset that, which is more crime. But no, the law-abiding folks, I can't see a lot of that going on. But it's certainly potential. And if it goes on long enough and things got bad enough, absolutely, that's where it would go. Absolutely. But if it's in place long enough, there's a major problems that it could cause.
Very good. Anyone else?
Hey, Dan, I wanted to ask you, you talked about training continue to go on. What about our lawful gun owners, can we come down to your range and other ranges and practice? How has that thing been affected? Can we still practice at a range? The Sportsman's Club, the clay pigeon shooting, the skeet, all that. How is that affected here?
Yeah. Well, there's carve-outs for that, Brad, for legal gun ranges and other sporting events where they're, organized and approved. Those are all going to be approved. But now you still you can't bring down these firearms. Okay. And that's, this, as we all know, that's the big part they did on this. They expanded the definition of assault firearms. And therefore, a lot of those are illegal to have if they haven't been registered. Will I know if you come to the bullet trap with a firearm that's not been registered? No. Am I going to enforce that? No. Do I have responsibility to enforce that? No. But at any rate, that's going to be up to each individual how they want to handle that. And now, I'm not going to police that. So I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. But no, you can bring it in here and you would not be questioned about that. And you can bring in the range like the high capacity magazines. We had a call on that this morning. High capacity magazine, over 15 rounds for a handgun is now considered high capacity. And if you had it, you can keep it. They are grandfathered. There's no registration for those, but you can only use them on your own personal property or someone else's property gives you permission, or a gun range. That's one of the ways you can go ahead and use it. We'll have no way to know if it's been reported or not, if it was grandfathered or not. That's not our responsibility. But that's some of the carve-outs they've got. But what I really found interesting on that is you have to transport that magazine in a case, just like a firearm. Now, most magazines are in the case with a firearm, but it has to be in its own case or in one with a firearm to even transport it. Another little idiocracy they wrote in the law that someone can get tripped up on.
And the magazine has to be empty.
No. Magazines in Illinois void transportation. Now, Dan, you may have seen some nuance in there I didn't see, but I don't believe normally now they don't have to be. If you're a FOID card holder, you can transport a loaded magazine in the case with the gun, as long as the magazine's not in the gun. If the magazine's in the gun, you have to have a concealed carry for that. I don't think they're anything about being loaded in this new bill either.
Okay, I was talking about extended magazines that you already own. I don't know.
That you may know something there I haven't seen. I haven't seen about it not being loaded. That may very well could be in there.
We'll have to dig into that. It's sad, but I guess this is the way our country was put together, that we have to rely on a court to protect our rights.
Yeah, it is.
And the people that drew this up, they know. I think they're just trying to find something that'll stick. I think they're trying to make an argument somewhere in some state that may give them a wedge in other states. But the people that voted for this and passed this and signed it into law, they know. I mean, they know this has absolutely nothing to do with crime. And Lori Lightfoot, I heard her on an interview this weekend, and this is going to be a big help. The big help is crack down on the people committing crimes, put them in jail, crack down on the people that are carrying these illegally obtained guns, and let's get about it. Let's make an issue that if you use a gun in a crime, you're going to pay a price, and you're going to pay a huge price.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the big loopholes that we're seeing now is letting these juveniles off so easy. As you well know, we had a problem down here at the store 3 years ago. None of the three were ever prosecuted. They were juveniles, and one of them had a firearm. Now, if you have a commission of a crime within possession of a firearm at the same time, the probability of that being used are dramatic if they run into a problem. So to me, that's an adult crime. They should not have this juvenile thing afforded to them, because they want to play the adult game. They get to play the adult price, as far as I'm concerned. And that's one of the things I think is a real detriment to the justice system right now, is all this juvenile stuff.
Excellent stuff, Dan. And we're going to kind of bring a close to this great conversation this evening as I give my colleagues a moment to wind up their closing thoughts and questions and remarks. 50 calibers, Dan, and I guess a couple things is, I think the number that I see is like 90% of these firearms that are used in crimes are obtained illegally. Is that a true number or something close to that?
That wouldn't surprise me a bit, Brad. I don't know if that's the actual number. I haven't seen statistics on that, but the one thing I can throw out here real quick, the 50 caliber, I can find two crimes in the history of the United States it was used in, an actual committed crime. One was to rob a Brinks armored truck, and the other one shot some people with his wife and the manager at the 50 caliber. That's been the only times they've ever used, but we outlawed those. And the other thing I was really interested, I was finally glad to see they got rid of those damn grenade launchers. You guys have seen those used all over the place, haven't you? And I'm going to have to get rid of a lot of inventory. I had a big pile of stuff, grenades, which we handle very gently. I'm going to have to get rid of those too, I guess, now.
Yeah, there's just grenade launchers on every corner in our communities, and it's become a real problem for us, without a doubt.
They have been.
Yeah. So, Dan, thank you. I think we're just going to go around the table here with our colleagues, and Dan Cooley, if you have any closing comments when we get to the end with that, I'm going to bring back Blaine Wilhauer. Blaine, any closing comments? I know you've probably been busy packing a lunch there, getting ready for the battle coming up here. What's going on as we close out this evening?
Absolutely. The Illinois Freedom Caucus stands ready for all the battles as always. But thanks, Dan. I think it's great the stuff that you're bringing. We've got your back. We've got your support. But as I said on the show last night, we really want to tackle this issue. If we want to solve the crime problem, we solve the opportunity problem. Too much opportunity has been destroyed in urban and rural areas in this state by our political class over the last generation. They've tried to replace the traditional family with the government, and it has completely wrecked our culture, and that's what brings the hopelessness and the addiction and disillusionment that leads to the violence. So, let's do something different in Springfield, and let's start actually tackling some of those issues. And maybe the byproduct would be less violence in our state, but we're not interested in that. JB Pritzker's not interested in that. He's in getting his press pops, jet off to Davos with his globalist buddies, and plot his next way that he's going to destroy working class people in this state. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the support. Thank you, Dan, for being here today.
My pleasure.
Blaine gave
Blaine,
great
you.
remarks. Adam Niemerg, close us out with a few thoughts.
Yeah, thanks again, Dan, for being with us here this evening. And thanks, Brad, for, as always, putting this on. Folks, yeah, we're going to see what happens in the coming weeks. We'll see what the Democrats decide to do in these courts, start to rule in our favor if we see any trailer bills like we saw with the Safety Act. And, Dan, you said it very well, with the Safety Act that was trying to be implemented by the governor and the radical left, letting repeat gun offenders back on the street. We have these laws in Cook County that are not being followed already. So to say that we're going to come after law-abiding gun owners in the state of Illinois as a solution for gun violence when we're not tackling the root cause of homes that are missing a father, missing that guidance for their children, or are talking about actual issues with Blaine alluded to with a lack of opportunity in the state of Illinois. These are the real problems that we have. Our kids growing up being taught these things in public school. We have the sex ed bill that we're still fighting. We're looking at possibly having to fight that being mandated in schools this spring. So, last week we were sworn in for another General Assembly, and I want to thank everybody in the 102nd District for your continued support. And again, I want to thank all the sheriffs for standing up against the governor and standing for our Second Amendment rights. So I want to say thank you. And every county that has passed a resolution against this, I want to say thank you as well, and keep up the fight, and we will be victorious. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Adam. And Chris Miller, thoughts as we close out?
Hey, it's great to be here with all you guys this evening, you patriots out there listening. Thanks for tuning in. I know that one thing that comes to my mind is that all we'd need is an elephant. We'd have a circus here on our hands. But as you know, the Democrats have outlawed circuses in Illinois. And so maybe they had a premonition. But anyway, I don't know about you guys, but one thing that we really haven't talked about is just last week, we all raised our right hand and took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Illinois. And I'm not sure that the Second Amendment is written in pretty plain English, so we could all understand it. And I'm not exactly sure why that's so confusing. But, I think it ought to be something to consider as a resolution to, if you violate your oath of office, go find a different line of work. And so, but anyway, those were just some happy thoughts that I had. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you like us on Facebook and social media so we can continue to get the message out, go and help us out financially. And, the fight for freedom never ends. And this is just another fight that we're willing to step up and take on the radical left that are trying to destroy our state and nation. So anyway, God bless you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Chris. And Dan Calkins, I know you've been leading the fight on the fundraising effort for all of us around, and we've rolled that address across the bottom most of the evening.
Thank you.
Any closing thoughts, Dan Calkins?
Well, we'll keep working. The coalition is going to meet again this afternoon. I think the lawyers are in their final drafting of the complaints to get to the federal court. And as soon as we file, of course, it'll be huge news all over the country. We'll see Blaine back on Tucker. maybe, hopefully. And we'll settle this in the courts. That's the way it's supposed to work. Thank you, Dan Cooley, for being a big part of our effort here. And we look forward to catching up with everybody as the news breaks. Brad, enjoy, and we will see everybody next Tuesday night.
Thank you, Dan. And Dan Cooley, we'll give you a minute here. Any thoughts? We really appreciate the time you've taken here to be with us today. I guess you're still available. You're probably going to be on the phone answering questions and in person. Tell us kind of how you see things over the next several days or weeks.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for having me. I felt very privileged to be amongst you freedom fighters, just like all the rest of us. And thank you very much. Going forward, it's going to be a big question mark. It's up to the courts, I guess. And I think our biggest thing we can contribute now is fundraising to support you guys. You're out there making the effort, and each and every gun owner, if you're a gun owner in the state of Illinois, you need to take notice here. They've drawn a line in the sand. This is our one chance to put it down, because if we fail here, we're done. I don't see anything ever good happening going forward if we can't stop it here. So I encourage folks to donate, either directly through the different links we have up on our Facebook page. And as I've said, we'll take monies down here at the Bullet Trap. We're happy to do that. We'll give you guys this organization, because I know you're doing a great job. I'm glad to see GOA joining the coalition with you today as well. And we've also, and I would encourage other FF elders to do the same thing. We're donating $2 for every firearm background check we do to your guys' organization to help support that going forward. And, anything we can ever do to help, we're there. Thank you so much for what you do. It takes a lot of courage to stand up, to buck the system. And J.B. Pritzer's grandstandings to come to an end. And I hope this can be it. So wish you guys all the best, and stay in touch.
Thank you, guys, and appreciate the time. And guys, with that, we're going to roll the out.